Good evening. The City of Riverbank's City Council LRA Board meetings are now in session. Today is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. It is 6 p.m. Please rise.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father God, we just come before you this evening, and we're so grateful and thankful for this opportunity to gather here tonight. I just pray, Father, for your wisdom to be in this place, Lord, as you have asked us to ask for it, and you would give it without finding fault. Lord, I pray for unity in this city. I pray that we're able to love one another and respect one another. That, Lord, we can't make our candle brighter by blowing someone else's out. But, Lord, that together we can be better. And so I just pray that tonight, Father, that we would just keep that in mind as we do business, Lord, and the presentations tonight. Lord, I just pray, Father, that we can honor those that are helping in the areas that we present tonight. We ask this in your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez. Here. Councilmember Barbara Martinez. Vice Mayor Jones Cruz. Here. Mayor O'Brien.
Here. There'll be no changes to the agenda. Any council authority member or staff who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time.
And I have a conflict of interest with item 11.4.
Oh, yes. Okay. No others? Okay, at this time, presentations. Item 7.1, Proclamation, Suicide Prevention Month, September 2024. We have Nancy and Norm Andrews. If you will approach the podium, please. The City of Riverbank Proclamation, Suicide Prevention Month. Whereas the month of September is National Suicide Prevention Month, a time in which individuals, organizations, and communities around the country join their voices to amplify the message that suicide can be prevented. And whereas according to the CDC, each year more than 49,000 people die by suicide. And whereas local organizations like American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, AFSP, and national organizations like the National Alliance on Mental Health, NAMI, are on the front lines of the battle that many still refuse to discuss in public, as suicide and mental illness remain too taboo a topic to speak on. And whereas these past years have presented our community with challenges and led to transitions that, expected or unexpected, welcomed or not, can be unsettling, disorienting, and stressful. Whereas knowing the signs of suicide, finding the words to communicate with someone that they are concerned about, and reaching out to local resources. And whereas we know that connecting, working with, and supporting one another can help prepare us for the future. And whereas it is encouraged that all residents take the time to inquire as to the well-being of their families, friends, and neighbors, and to generally convey their appreciation for their existence by any gesture they deem appropriate. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the City Council of the City of Riverbank hereby proclaims September as Suicide Prevention Month. We encourage all staff, students, family, and community members to recognize the power of connections and support in all times of challenge. Signed today by me. So today we have Andrew. Norm
Andrews. This is my wife, Nancy.
Nancy Andrews. They're here to speak on the Suicide Prevention Month. And I know it's always a difficult time. Well, first off, we have to have a photo op.
Okay. They are.
I want to thank the council and the mayor for giving us this recognition. I'm here on behalf of the Central Valley chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Nancy and I were board members for 5 years. We're still involved. And like most people who get involved in this work, we lost our youngest son, Eric, to suicide in 2015. He was 30 years old. He had just bought his first house 3 months before. He had been just promoted at his job 2 months before. And 2 weeks before he died, him and I hiked to the top of Mount Lassen. And 2 weeks later, he was dead. My involvement in this work is more a reflection on who he was than me. He was a great kid, and the world is a lesser place without him. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is one of the first websites I visited after Eric died, and searching for help. I didn't know how to guide my family through this horrible loss. But with the help of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and another organization called Friends for Survival, which we are still involved in, she went back and sat down. Friends for Survival is there for the sole purpose of supporting other people who have families that have lost loved ones to suicide. Nancy and I run a support group at hospice twice a month. We have 2 meetings a month for family members of people who have lost members to suicide. It's a hard journey, but it gets easier with other people helping. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is a great organization. They do the majority of work in this country for suicide prevention. They do a lot of research. They're the #1 fundraiser for that research, and they're a very worthy cause. Also, I would like to mention that this Saturday is our annual Out of the Darkness Walk. Will be at Modesto Junior College West Campus on Saturday morning. I think registration starts at 9. The ceremony starts at 10. There'll be a few speakers. Nancy and I will be there. We'll have a table set up for Friends for Survival with literature and other information for other families suffering from this loss. Once again, I just want to thank you all for giving us this opportunity to share what we do, a little bit about what we do. And like I tell the new people coming into our meetings, I'm sorry you're here, but I'm so glad you found us. When I found Friends for Survival, it really changed the direction for our family. We needed help and didn't know where to reach to get it. So thanks once again.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment also. In 1997, Admiral Frank Border was the Chief of Naval Operations. And he got dressed in his whites and went out on his front lawn, sat down and took his life. And that profoundly affected the Navy because he was a big proponent on suicide prevention. So no matter who you're talking to, and they want to encourage, everyone has an issue, one or another, that can boil up and make a temporary issue permanent. So thank you for your courage. Okay, item 7.2, presentation workshop on the city housing element update.
Mayor and Council, Miguel Galvez with JB Anderson Land Use Planning will provide the presentation for tonight.
Thank you, Maricela. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the public. Again, Miguel Galvez with JB Anderson. land use planning. The purpose of the meeting today is to provide you a little progress report of just where we've been and, the steps that are going to be coming up. I'm happy to say that the federal government is also participating by reducing the basis points. They reduced the interest rates by 0.5 point. So that helps a little bit. And, if people are interested in refinancing or trying to get into a loan, every little bit helps. But some of the recent activities we conducted, we had a community workshop, which the members of this planning commission, the city council attended. That was on July 31st. We had a stakeholder workshop that was held on September 11th. We had a planning commission presentation a week ago on September 17th, and then this presentation today. Again, we are always looking for comments. People can go online and make comments, contact staff. So we can hear everyone's concerns with that. Real quickly, what is the housing element? The housing element, just a quick overview. It's one of the required elements of the general plan. It covers an 8-year period. It's required to be updated by state law. Not all the elements of the general plan are required to be updated, but the housing element is. It covers an 8-year period from June 30, 2023 through December 31st, 2031. It includes an inventory of all the housing sites. It identifies housing needs. It also requires the city to address what the state and local council of government calls the regional housing needs allocation. The state projects that the community, the state as a large community is going to grow by X amount, and they kind of divide that into each of the different counties. And so our county received a certain number that the state requires to plan for. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on in our presentation. The housing element also provides a socioeconomic background profile of the community, everything from the number of homeless people we serve to, what the typical rents are, housing prices, what people earn in our community. It provides a summary of housing supply, housing needs, how many homes are available for rent, what's the construction like, how much are the homes selling for. It also requires us to review fair housing analysis that deals with housing discrimination, things like that. It requires us to identify housing production opportunities. If you recall, going into this a little more detail, we presented a number of vacant sites in the city, underdeveloped sites. And these were sites that we presented to the community, said this is where housing can be developed. And from that, we were able to identify some sites that the community thought would be worthwhile to pursue and develop affordable housing on. It provides an analysis of housing constraints, everything from, do we have adequate facilities, sewer, water, roads, storm drainage? Do we have the capacity to serve? What other constraints are there? Do we have governmental constraints, zoning, land use entitlements, those of that nature? It requires us to do a progress report. How did we do last time? And we'll cover that. And lastly, it comes up with housing goals, objectives, and policies. In summary, that's what the housing element is. When I look at I like to use the symbol of the house. I always start, we have the foundation. You always start with the foundation. That's where the city has a direct involvement. And that is the city's required to identify available sites, land that's suitable for housing. And the state says, you guys control land use, so we want you to start there. And that's one of the main purposes of the housing element, is to really identify housing sites that can be developed. As you move up in the structure, once the foundation is in, you look at the walls, the windows, and things like that. And that's where the city's development standards kick in, the building code, the zoning code, the setbacks, things like that. And these are the two areas that the city really has direct hands on, and what the city can do to evaluate how well is facilitating development in our community. The state doesn't get involved with that. Developers do. Developers are the ones that are required. Well, they're the ones that actually build the city, They are the ones that are required to build the homes. The city is not required to build the homes, but to provide land and make it easy by loosening development standards and things of that nature. The top, once the house is already up, I call it the ceiling, the roof, then you look into, maintaining the property, rehabilitation, expanding, things like that. But the city's main focus will be land sites and what can it do with this development standards to facilitate development. As I talked about the regional housing needs allocation earlier, the city is required to plan for that. Our allocation for the city of Riverbank is 3,591 units. Of that, 1,642 have to be earmarked for very low and low-income households. That's a tall order. The city does have enough land to accommodate all this, this demand. Again, we're not required to build it, but make sure it's available if someone wants to develop it. And that's part of the task, to show to the city, like, here are the sites, here's the areas here's our strategy for making that happen. You can see the breakdown there for the regional housing needs allocation for the city. I'll go a little more detail here on the community workshop that was held on July 31st. We kind of broke it up into 4 stations. The first station had to do with identify housing needs and constraints, and this is where we asked members of our public, what do you experience? Tell us. Second station was looking at the housing sites inventory. As I mentioned, we had maps of different vacant sites and underdeveloped sites. Another station was we were able to showcase the housing programs that are available here at the city. The last one, we had our housing element survey. We had an housing element survey, which I'll talk a little bit further on in our presentation, that was available online. It was available for 30 days. But going into station 1, under housing needs and constraints, these were some of the highlights. People that attended commented that we need increased options for senior housing, multi-generational housing. There should be more things for single rooms that have single family homes that have more bedroom options, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. You can have more people in their 2 bedrooms with 2 baths. There was comments about increasing the building height. Maybe we should just start growing taller than growing sideways. They were talking about housing affordability with the prices that we have right now, with the cost of land, with the cost of fees and construction and materials. It gets very pricey. And so some of the things that we're looking at are small lot development. And so folks are saying, I want to get into the home ownership. How about, what can the city do to make homes available at $350,000 for a sale price, which is very reasonable. So we've heard comments like that. They can, do condos, mobile homes. They can provide down payment assistance, small lot development. There was also comments about requesting credit counseling for those folks that perhaps have some money saved up, but they don't meet the credit requirements, or the cost puts them into a higher bracket. What can the city do to offer credit counseling for people to get out of debt? You got to improve their financial situation at home. There was also discussion about adopting inclusionary housing program. Inclusionary housing is oftentimes where you have a developer that's going to build homes. I'll just say, for example, a subdivision of 50 homes, and they can either pay an in lieu fee, or they require a certain number of those homes be set aside for folks that are lower income. Sometimes those homes they don't have, the top of the line improvements, but it's like a Formica counter instead of like a granite counter or things like that. Just the standards are reduced. There's even, perhaps you can do duplexes or duets and stuff like that. So give folks more options. There was a comment about expanding the city sphere to McHenry Avenue, but not to grow, but to serve as an agriculture buffer. So that came up. So it's like, yeah, we should grow, but also protect our farmland. So that comment came in. There were other comments too. There was comments about one of the gentlemen, and he's here, he talked about increasing bike lanes, where you have a separated travel, a path for a bike lane where they're not mixed in with the cars, and kind of providing more transit opportunities or people to get around by bikes. On our second station, our housing sites inventory. Again, the purpose of that was to identify housing sites that would be served to accommodate multifamily. The state recognizes that it's hard to build housing that's affordable. And so when we look at meeting the needs of our very low-income households, they're saying if you develop at a density of at least 20 units per net acre, we will consider that to meet our very low-income household. These are folks that are going to be renting. So developing but establishing minimum densities at 20 units per acre. So staff has reviewed a number of sites, again, underdeveloped sites, vacant sites. We present those with staff, we review those with staff, and we ask the community too, which sites would be best recommended. And we have some maps here on the walls. These were some of the sites that received votes, if you will. The darker the color, the more votes they receive. All those properties are going to be recommended that, we look at developing those sites at 20 units per acre at a minimum. When we look at the sites, the other consideration we need to look at is just the suitability of the sites. Are utilities available, as I mentioned? Do we need to extend sewer waters or sewer treatment plant at capacity, or do we need to make improvements there? So we look at all those things, availability of utilities there at the site, but also region-wide or city-wide. And again, we need to look at this by accommodating it by income level. One of the other issues we need to look at is affirmatively furthering fair housing. I skipped ahead, I'm sorry. We looked at affirmatively furthering fair housing. This is, I don't want to say it's a new requirement, but it's the one that the state is requiring us to spend more time on. And that is to make sure that we look at all the sites and we kind of spread all the sites that are low income around the city, and that they are in areas that have access to many of the needs, whether it's hospitals or banking or shopping, things like that. And so it's kind of like you don't want to concentrate low-income people around a certain part of town, like just spread it around, give an opportunity for anyone to kind of select a home anywhere in any part of the city. So that's that. Here's a map that we had that identified many of the sites that were vacant, that have votes, and here's the one that I mentioned. These are the recommended sites that we spoke with staff. There were some additional sites, but we removed them. These sites will be enough to accommodate the very low-income needs identified through our regional housing needs allocation. Under Station 3 at the committee workshop, again, we were talking about housing programs. Inclusionary zoning, we talked a little bit about that. There's some samples nearby, the city of Ripon, the city of Oakdale, that have these things, these programs. I know when I worked at the city of Modesto, they also had what they call an equity sharing program, where developers will kick money into a pot that's made available as a down payment assistance to loan to a buyer. And then if they ever decide to sell, then the city gets a share of that rise in equity, and that can continue to fund the down payment assistance program. But there's lots of different policies out there, and we'll be including a goal for the city to consider that as part of the need to meet our low-income housing needs. We do have a first-time home buyers program, but again, right now, a lot of folks are not able to qualify that. They are eligible to qualify for a loan, but it's not enough to meet today's prices. So a down payment assistance program is helpful, but folks sometimes still need more help. So like I said, it does help that the federal government is reducing the interest rates. I understand they might continue to do so, but it's a slow process. Station 4. We did have a survey online, and I'll ask we have results of that survey. I'll ask Gabby if she can pass out the survey. It's going to be an appendix of our public participation strategy in the housing element. This kind of the results of the survey. You can look at it at home. Basically, there was 75 people that responded to. Those that responded were Spanish speaking. Mostly people that responded were longtime homeowners that participated. Mostly are middle-aged folks. And some of the things that they identified as a need for housing rehabilitation, they've been in their homes and they want additional help maintaining their homes. So that's a program that the city is encouraged to consider, a housing rehabilitation program. As I mentioned, we had a stakeholder meeting. We kind of asked the experts. We had a meeting. We invited some of the local housing developers. We invited some of the local housing service providers to come. There was 4 folks that participated in person. There's some that participated online. And we asked them 4 questions. We asked the questions in advance. One, what are the top housing issues that should be addressed? What challenges do you face in developing housing in our community? What can the city of Riverbank do to facilitate development? And what housing related activities should the city prioritize? Some of the things that we heard back were for developers that are into single family development, they're not real keen on developing multifamily because oftentimes it doesn't pencil out. They need projects that are at least 50 units in size. And if they're focused on smaller lots, they really cannot make a parcel pencil out, I'm sorry. The other issue is when you get into developing of apartments, you also have to have a component for managing those apartments, whether you have a property manager, but most of us want to be able to build the homes and then just, sell the homes and move on. But these are some of the comments that we heard. They like the mixed use zoning. One of the things that we're proposing, and many cities are doing this, is to allow mixed use zoning where you can have both commercial and residential development. It can be residential development on top of existing or new buildings. I've heard that, I forget what the community, but someone approved some apartments over a Costco, for example, which is new and innovative. But the developers would like horizontal mixed use. So you got a big shopping center, like here's your commercial, but next to it, you got an apartment complex. So it's not necessarily on top, but right next door. So it helps with parking, it helps with just convenience. They like the flexibility on density ranges. Some cities have pyramidal zoning where you can allow single family homes in the R3 zone. But if we look at having minimum density standards, people know what's expected. It's like, okay, well, I won't invest in that because they want, more apartments there. But they like the fact that there's a variety of density ranges. The other thing that they recommended was that we consider amending some of our development standards, perhaps having narrower streets, perhaps having reduced parking, something that will provide more land to build on. And, these things are available through like a planned development zone, but they're interested in what can the city do to kind of reduce their development standards to facilitate this. And it helps them financially as well as being able to build more homes on the property. The last thing that came up was, they like the idea of being able to build multifamily homes by right. You just come and get a building permit. You don't have to go to the plan commission for some type of site plan or design review. You just come in, get your building permit, you can get started. So just streamlining multifamily applications was something that's very helpful. We did get a letter from Self-Help Enterprises, and if I can ask Gabby to pass that around. And Self-Help Enterprises talks about, for those that don't know, they do sweat equity, but also multifamily development. Again, they're talking about, increasing affirmatively furthering fair housing. They're saying you should really look at those areas that have high resource sites, whether there's an opportunity zone or just something that can help them score higher when they look at applying for funding with the state. They encourage the city to look at reviewing all the surplus land, whether it's old or I don't want to say vacated, but abandoned storm drain basins, something that the city owns that can be used for development. They also talked about, the desire for expedited entitlement process for, by right development. They also talked about, allowing manufactured homes to be developed just like, ADUs, as long as they're on a permanent foundation, not necessarily a travel trailer, but a mobile home. And for most part, those can happen here at the city anyway. The last thing, which is also significant, some cities do offer fee waivers or deferrals. So they're asking, what can the city look at reducing this development impact fees? So these are some of the comments we've heard from our friends, our stakeholders in the community. We have a comprehensive community engagement program. We're going to be taking our housing element to the planning commission, and that will start a 30-day public review period. That'll be going to the planning commission October 15th. Folks will be able to review it, make comment on that. We'll be taking that to the city council November 12th. We'll have that available online. After the housing element is presented to the planning commission and staff is authorized to submit that to the state will have 90 days to review it. And they'll make comments on it. Most of these are again comments that are like 10 to 20 pages long, which is quite a bit. And then this planning commission, city council will be asked to come back after we get comments from the state to formally adopt the planning commission. To formally adopt the house element, both at the planning commission public hearing and at the city council. But we do have, like I said, a comprehensive community engagement strategy. We've had the community workshops, we have stakeholder meeting, we have all our online survey. We've had a number of meetings like the one last week and then the one today. We have a dedicated website. Here's our website. And here's our timeline, which I mentioned. We've been ironing out the housing sites this month. The housing element is drafted. Will be presented to the Plan Commission and City Council, as I mentioned earlier. That concludes my brief report. I try to be quick. I know it's just meant to be a presentation, but I want to let the council know some of the comments we've been hearing, some of the concerns that are out there, and just some of the progress we made. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. I know this is a presentation.
It's a workshop, it's a presentation workshop,
Yes.
so we can ask questions. Council, anyone have questions, comments?
Just got a quick comment. Miguel, thank you for sharing that information. I think there is at a level we can be a little bit more proactive. I know there's a lot of residents that are kind of struggling with payments and stuff like that. So if there's a way we can kind of be, as a city, kind of be a little bit maybe proactive in that credit counseling part and kind of helping them navigate through these the tough times. I know there's a lot of resources out there, so we should definitely take advantage of that. I was super interested. You said that the Modesto was doing a equity reimbursement program. I think
they did one in the past.
Yeah, I think that's pretty neat. I never would have thought of that, but that's pretty interesting. Maybe we can do something like that. Maybe not even just for down payment, but for the rehab that the residents are kind of asking. Maybe we do like a combo thing there. Just something we can kind of explore as we start to get into strategic planning for 2025. No, that's the only comments I had. Thank you.
A couple of things. I think to supplement and help programs like that, I would really love to explore the inclusionary housing policies and see how, we can get support from the developers to help with programs like that. And a question about the polling and surveying, it's always difficult. Do you feel like it's reflective of the city as a whole? I think the ages seem pretty accurate, but renting versus owning and household income, is that accurate? Do you know?
I think it's reflective of the folks that have participated. It's hard to get participation. We do notices. Some people don't read. Some people are just busy with life with family and kids and stuff like that. Our, our websites are available. I know we also send out notices through the building. But really, housing's a difficult issue to kind of put your arms around. One of the things um, I recommended and we've done, I've done in the past is kind of have a housing summit once a year, where we kind of have like an invitation to the community to come on out, whether it's at the community center, and we kind of have different, I don't want to say booths, but stations. So you want help with, credit counseling, come over here to this, folks. So you need help with unlawful detainers or, dealing with problems you deal with, these folks. So even inviting developers, even inviting some of the lenders to come out and kind of talk about housing. And so being kind of come and choose, like we have an overall presentation. And so that's very helpful in trying to educate, because, there's quite a lot of information to try to take in when you're signing papers and you're trying to buy a house. Like, what's all this mean? Including the real estate agents, real estate market. So this is something that I've been involved with in the past. When I was at the city of Modesto, we had one at the Center Plaza. Something like that can be repeated. It can be region-wide, team up with the cities of Oakdale, the county, and it's a great opportunity to get the word out and kind of hear what the concerns are and have that more one-on-one type of assistance, if you will.
Seems like we have a lot of partners that'd be willing to do that. It'd be great to explore. Thank you.
That was my question. How would we be able to reach more people? Because I don't think that a lot of our residents know about the opportunities that the city can offer to help them to get into housing. And I also think that once we have our strategic planning session, that we need to really talk to our developers and see if they can assist with different types of housing models. Because seems to me like right now we are the developers are focusing on the bigger homes. And it just seems that that word affordable housing is not affordable housing. It's more like sustainable. So what can you do to sustain, get a house, stay in it, and obtain it. So I just think that your suggestions, I even think maybe we could do it twice a year. And then if we have some kind of events that, we're having downtown here, that maybe we could have city staff from the housing department to maybe have a booth to explain or give out information. Even the survey, I don't think that a lot of people knew that survey was even out there. So I like to just see us be more proactive in trying to reach our residents and let them know what we have to offer. We got some good stuff going on.
I just had one thing, and Miguel, thank you for sharing all that. And sitting up here and looking at these RENA numbers, 3591, it's a pretty daunting number. And I know a lot of folks and I don't realize that there's a lot of pressure to meet those RENA numbers. And I mean, that's a huge number. And those are mandates that come from above us down. And I think a lot of folks don't often realize that unless you delve into it. I didn't always realize that before I started in on this business here. But we also have to remember that it's our job to deal with the land use part of it, that we have to provide, that we have these pieces of land right there for these particular items. So I just really thank you for sharing that and hope people really understood and heard that, those are big numbers and it's not our job to be out there developing it. And I think you said that about 3 or 4 times. I was hearing it and I was listening. But it's important that we have to do our job up here and provide that land use available for those folks that want to develop it. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you, sir. I know that we don't have to develop. We have to plan for it. But if we have a development and we're not building the required housing, the state will come down as they have for other communities. Elk Grove was one, even though Elk Grove is growing leaps and bounds, they just didn't have the requisite number. And they got sued and they had to pay all the state's legal fees, which were extensive. So as we say, we do not have to develop it. We have to be careful how we develop. Ensure that we get the inclusionary housing throughout. The big issue, not issues, difficulty is the getting a developer to develop affordable housing, or whether it's an apartment complex. As he said, the management portion of it is big. And that's right now not sustainable in the ones that we do have. But how do we attract, we say we want to build it, and we truly do. How do we attract the developer?
For me, I think the easiest thing is to meet with developers. I know I work with developers that are nonprofit developers like visionary home builders, self-help enterprises, those, even small developers like Habitat for Humanity, and really kind of strategize, look at the cities, like, okay, let's look at the sites, because oftentimes these require a subsidy from the state or federal government. And there's lots of criteria that are used to help judge, like, is it close to an urgent care? Is it close to shopping? Is it close to a transit center? And so one of the things that we can do is kind of team up with these nonprofit developers and kind of strategize which properties are best suited to qualify for some of these rent subsidies. And the good thing about these rent subsidies is that the development has to be affordable for a period of at least 50 years, not just, 5 years or so. And the other component is that a lot of these nonprofits are well versed in property management. They're very good about when you're reviewing applications or going through the eviction process. Okay, you broke the house rules, now we're going to evict you. They're very sophisticated, and property management is where it's at. Some people think, well, I don't want apartments because there's going to be a lot of traffic, a lot of noise, a lot of drugs, or a lot of gangs or what have you. But it comes to how well is the property managed, and if people are breaking the rules, then you go through the eviction process, and that takes some level of sophistication. But there are developers that are very good at that, and in terms of the affordable, not affordable, but the for-profit developers, again, it's just sitting down with them and like, what opportunities can they help out with, like sweat equity, or doing, ADU units as part of the model homes. Like, here's an addition, do a junior ADU that's incorporated to the building, or have an attached ADU. Have, like I said, multi-generational housing. I was hoping to hear from the developers, what kind of things are they looking at in the industry that is selling. I mean, there's some folks that is like, hey, I want to take care of my grandparents or my parents, or I want, be able to have a place for the newlyweds to live in. And so it's kind of like not a communal, but you have joint facilities where there's like one kitchen or central play area. Anyway, these are the type of discussions that we should be having with the developers, and kind of say, hey, what's selling, what's not selling. I mean, for them, my personal opinion is, they want to get in and get out and move on to the next project. But I think if we have a strategy where we really engage them, it's like, what can we do for a long-term solution for our residents, our community?
For self-help, I talked with them a couple of years back, maybe 6 years back. They weren't in our area. Are they in our area now? They were down in Fresno, working their way north.
I believe they are.
They're close? In the area. Okay, thank you.
I was going to add something personal, believe it or not, but when I settled in Riverbank, my parents bought a home in Fern Court, and that's a self-help sweat equity home. We helped build the homes, and that's where we grew up. All those folks from Fern Court, we built our homes, and I'm a product of we're going to do what we can to improve our own situation. So I'm sorry, probably.
That's
too
okay.
much.
Hey, Miguel, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. And we'll look forward to the final report.
Mayor, we have a public comment
Oh, we do?
on
Okay.
Zoom. Ms. Agers, can you unmute, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Jamie Ager, 7730 McHenry Avenue, Modesto. I have two things I would like to mention. As the council knows, at your last meeting, you considered the ballot initiative item, and you chose to accept the County Register of Voters certification.
Ma'am, this is the housing element.
I'm trying to speak on public comment. Are you not
No,
doing?
we're not there yet.
We're on the presentation, Ms. Eggers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think now we can go to public comment. There's no other comments on the presentation? On the housing. Okay, go ahead.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, Olivia Rambula, broker owner of Timeless Real Estate here in Riverbank. I was at that meeting in July, and I think that one of the elements, and I just want to make sure that it continues on. We want to make sure that people who are getting this help with the assistance on this affordable housing are actual Riverbank residents, and I believe we brought that up then. I don't know, like having a requirement, whether they live here 2 years plus or whatever the case is, but we want to make sure that people who live here are the ones who are getting that help first. So I don't know if that's an element, because I didn't hear it tonight, that can be included, but I want to make sure that we're taking care of the people who are actually here in town. Are we able to do that?
You can say that. I believe there's some legality that we would have to consider.
There's equal opportunity
Yes, yeah.
requirements that the state of California has placed on the funding. So we can't restrict it to certain residents. The programs that we have are the first time home buyer program. And so that could be just somebody who's coming to look to live in Riverbank. So we hope that they become Riverbank residents. Obviously, it's a first time home buyer program. So it's not someone who has already owned a home. So this would be their first opportunity to do that. Now, our owner occupied rehabilitation program, that does require for them to be current Riverbank residents.
Okay.
That is not open to any resident outside of the city limits.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, like for the owner occupied stuff. I mean, I don't know about the other stuff, that obviously now, but I just want to make sure we're taking care of the people who have lived here who can't afford their homes. That's all. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right.
Rich Homer, 2116 Park Ridge Drive. I know HCD has pushed on these huge housing needs that each town is a goal. We said mandate. I don't think it's a mandate. I think it's a goal to build within an 8-year period. But and if you look, you can look this up. This is correct information. The State Department of Finance 2060 projections shows that Riverbank actually needs to build 20 dwellings per year. It's well below the figure that the state HCD ran through StanCog. State Finance Department has Stan County entire 40-year population at 55,909. Divided by 40 equals 1,398 new residents per year. There'll be with the resident size of 3.21, that's 435 units per year, 3,483 units in total in Stan County over an 8-year housing element cycle. Riverbank equals 4.5% of the Stan County population. That would be 158 homes during 8 years or 20 dwellings per year. You can look that up in the State Department of Finance, but that are their projections, not HCD ramming something down all the cities to build on and on and on.
True, but HCD dictates. Thank you. I think we'll conclude the workshop. Miguel, thank you. Thank you all for participating. We're going to move forward to public comment. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council LRA Board. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Public comments, please.
Olivia?
Hello again, Mayor and Council, Vice Mayor. Olivia Rambula, broker owner of Timeless Real Estate, also one of your Chamber of Commerce members here in Riverbank. Speaking on behalf of Chamber, we just want to make sure that you guys are invited and aware of our upcoming events. We do have this Thursday, the 26th. We have a mixer that's going to be at Security Public Storage. It's going to be a breakfast mixer from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So come get your coffee, pastries. You guys are all welcome. Everybody here is welcome. So please come out and support. We're also going to be at the Cheese and Wine Festival on October 12th. We'll have our booth. At our booth, you'll be able to buy any of those glasses that you're missing, those wine glasses that you are trying to have your date of birth on them, all that kind of stuff. So come on out, visit us. We also will have maps. I believe they're going to help you guys find the different booths that are there. So see your Riverbank Chamber of Commerce. And then we have a big event happening, Antigua's 20th anniversary celebration and ribbon cutting. That's in Antigua Event Center here on 2nd Santa Fe. That's going to be October 19th. It's going to start at 5:30 p.m. and end around 11 p.m. And what's going to happen at that event, tickets are $60 if you are a member of any chamber. And there's some other too that it's $30 for that. And at the event, there'll be dinner, there'll be dancing, there'll be music, there'll be mariachis playing during the beginning of the event. And then around dinner time, there's going to be 3 professional singers that are coming that are renowned professional singers that have sung here at Gallo. They performed in Mexico. So it's going to be an amazing event. And then there'll be a DJ and dancing when they're done. So come on out and support. I know everybody here wants to support our small businesses. So I bought a whole table for my family. So bring your whole family, your friends, whoever, and just support because we want him to sell out because we want to support our lovely Antigua Event Center. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have one on Zoom.
No other public here? Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Agers, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Apologize earlier. I thought you opened public comment.
Oh.
Jamie Yeager, 7730 McHenry Avenue, Modesto. Couple comments. At your last council meeting, you took action on the ballot initiative to certify the County Register of Voters certification that we had sufficient signatures, and you advanced the initiative to the ballot. My concern is that when the item came back to the council for comments, the mayor commented that he had, quote, met with the petitioners from Bakersfield. And my concern is that the notice of intent to petition that was submitted to the city was signed by 2 City of Riverbank residents, not residents from Bakersfield. So I'm confused about that. And the public notice that was printed in the newspaper of local certification or circulation, reflected that. And so did the information that was attached to the signature sheet. So I just wanted to clarify for the record that the petitioners were 2 City of Riverbank residents. My second point, I thank Rich Homer for bringing up the RENA numbers tonight and clarifying that there are goals versus mandates. And my last point that I'd like to make tonight is that one of my fellow City of Riverbank residents and I have twice requested meetings with the vice mayor, and neither time have we received any kind of acknowledgement of our request to meet. So hopefully that was some sort of technical email glitch, and that we will receive a response from her to me. Thank you.
Thank you. No further comment. We'll go on to the consent calendar, consisting of item 9.1, waive readings, 9.2, approval of the City Council Local Redevelopment Authority Board Minutes, August 27th, 2024. Item 9.3, resolution to award bid for the Roselle and South Rosebrook Intersection Improvement Project to the Hensley Paving and General Engineering, Inc., authorizing execution of future change orders and authorizing a budget amendment for the additional $261,219 from Measure L Local Streets and Roads. Item 9.4, resolution accepting the annual financial report for fiscal year 2021-22. Item 9.1, 9.5, LRA resolution to award a contract for specialized legal services for the Local Redevelopment Authority and authorize the city manager to enter into an outside counsel service agreement with Kutrek Rock LLP. Is there anyone wishing to pull any of the items? Do I have in consideration?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as read.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe?
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones Cruz?
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 11.1, in new business, a resolution to approve a contract change order for 60% design for the Regional Recycle Water Project, Phase 1, to Brown and Caldwell, and authorize a budget appropriation to the amount of $2,254,540 from the Sewer Fund 106.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Cody Bridgewater, your Director of Public Works, will give the staff report for item 11.1 as well as 11.2, which are both related to our regional recycled water project.
Can we take them both together?
No, I'm just, that way I don't have to reintroduce him at the next one. Trying to facilitate things for you.
Mayor, members of the council. In 2022, city proceeded with completing the 15% design documents for the financial assistance with the State Water Board and FEMA. And then following an open request for proposal or qualifications process, the preparation of these 30% design documents and staff's review of the one statement of qualifications received was from Brown and Caldwell. Based on qualifications and experience, tonight's request is to proceed with awarding a contract change order to Brown and Caldwell for the advancement of the design documents from 30 to 60%. So in June of 23, City Council approved the contract with Brown and Caldwell for the 30% design and advanced the details of the design, including evaluating potential addition of grit removal and cost-efficient management of wastewater solids, and support advancing the projects towards implementation. Should be noted that this 30% design was completed on time and under budget by approximately $290,000 in March of 2024. So in an effort to continue the progress and remain on schedule for the facility design and construction, city staff is proposing a contract amendment with Brown and Caldwell to progress from 30 to 60% design. Now, items included in this phase of design include, but are not limited to, project management, quality assurance and control, as well as approximately 15 to 20 meetings with Brown and Caldwell staff and city staff. Equipment pre-selection, so the Brown and Caldwell will put out RFPs to equipment manufacturers for the equipment to be installed at the facility, and the city will attempt to procure that equipment prior to construction in an effort to save funds and mark up on the contractor, as well as facilitate potential long lead times. The 60% design services and submittals, architectural workshops for the maintenance facility required for the treatment plant, operations workshops, so working with staff to give them an idea of how these pieces of equipment will need to be operated and overseen, and control narrative workshops, which is the technical instrumentational equipment that will be required by the state to monitor all of this equipment and make sure that we are producing the water that we need to be to the level that the state requires. The design plans will include general, civil, mechanical, architectural, structural, demolition, and electrical and instrumentation drawings. And the estimated timeline for the completion of 60% design is approximately 10 months or June of 2025. And the cost of this project with the 10% contingency is $2,254,540 to be appropriated from the city's wastewater enterprise fund 106. And staff recommends city council approve this contract change order for 60% design with Brown and Caldwell in the amount of $2,254,540. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
This is a huge project that we are about to undertake, and I was wondering if we could have it on our website so that the public is aware of what we're doing. I think that the city residents need to know the reasons why we're doing this and how we're progressing. So we already have gone from 30%, now we're at 60%. They need to know why and where we're at.
Yes, ma'am.
And what we expect this recycled water to do for us in our region and our community. So I'd like to see it on the website.
Great idea.
Thank you. Oh, in Spanish too, or something?
Yes.
So Cody, when we met this morning, you were kind of explaining some of the stuff. Could you kind of share with the public what portion of this is reimbursable through the state?
So with our state revolving fund loan application that we submitted in December of 2022, that we were approved for this year, the initial 15%, the 30%, the 60%, and the potential 100% design is all fully refundable through that loan program. So we've incorporated those costs into that loan application, and the state has approved those costs.
And if everything goes smooth, I kind of mentioned to you, if we hopefully get that BRIC grant, right, and then the state revolving fund, and then the WIFIA program at the end to kind of tie it all in, I would like to see us revisit those rates once we have a concrete timeline and the funding's there. So I hope, and I'm sure the rest of the council would like to see that as well. So thank you for sharing all that information. And I thought it was important that the residents heard that part. So thank you for sharing that.
Any others? On that, on the website that Councilmember Barbara Martinez stated, we have a one-page history of how this project started. Include that, that's the one we gave to US EPA, and they thoroughly enjoyed seeing that it was really concise. That would be good, how this started, why it's necessary, and then you may put in some anecdotal information like Tulare County, Kern County being fined for not putting enough water back into their aquifer, and this is one of the reasons why we're doing this. So I'm going to open this up for public comment. You have to be up here, sir. You do. You have to be recorded.
Rich Homer, 2116 Park Ridge Drive, Riverbank, California. Been there for 20-some years. Is this we're looking at a tertiary treatment plant, or is this just improving our current plant? And if it is a tertiary plant, why aren't we looking at options to coexist with already systems such as Modesto's that have other cities going into their program? Okay.
Good question. Any other comments? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. Mr. Homer, that was a good question. We have been invited by the city of Modesto to clean our system to tertiary compliance and then ship it to them so they can sell it to the west side. I don't think that's prudent or efficient. This will be a tertiary system.
That's correct.
And it will be sellable to the surrounding farmers who have a great desire to be receiving the water is basically giving them a water right, but I can't really comment on that any further. Did I say too much? Okay, good. So you're right. It is a tertiary and we are reutilizing that water.
Could you add more on that, those conversations that happened with MID or with Modesto?
Yes, so we met with the city of Modesto probably winter of 23 regarding their ability to take the city of Riverbank's wastewater. Essentially as Mr. O'Brien alluded to, we would treat it to a certain quality, send it to the city of Modesto, be charged to discharge to the city of Modesto, and then they would turn around, treat it to the tertiary quality water, and then sell it to farmers. So we would pay them to take the water, and then they would make money on top of that.
I think that's a good deal.
If I can just add to that. So I also had a conversation separately aside from that meeting. So I reached out to one of the council members, what it would look like from infrastructure wise, going from one plant to the opposite side. It was absolutely not feasible. Just imagine the cost of something like that. I mean, when we started this project, we were all kind of in shock that we were considering 70 million, close to 80 million for this project initially, and now it's kind of grown. But just kind of imagine an infrastructure project connecting one city. I believe it's on the opposite side of town. Just would not make sense.
Okay. So right now we have, I brought it back to council. We have a resolution to approve the contract change. Do we have anyone wishing to entertain?
I'll make a motion to approve item 11.1.
A second?
We have a motion to approve item 11.1 and a second roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 11.12, a resolution to award a contract change order for a 60% design phase program management and project permitting support for the Regional Recycled Water Project, Phase 1 to KSN Inc. and authorize a budget appropriation in the amount of $395,700 from the Sewer Fund 106 fiscal year 24-25.
So with the approval of 11.1 brings us to 11.2. KSN is our water and wastewater consulting engineer that we have had under contract for a while now. They helped us with the initial 15% design that Brown and Caldwell built on for the 30%, and then KSN also was approved back in June of 23 for the program management portion of the 30% design. So we are now asking for a change order for the KSN portion to take us from the 30 to 60%. So upon the completion of the 30% preliminary design, as directed by City Council, applications for financial assistance for proceeding with Phase 1 Regional Recycled Water Project have been submitted to the State Water Resource Control Board under the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. Additional application has been submitted to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, for funding under the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, or BRIC, Hazard Mitigation Assistance Program. So based on the proposed 60% design, staff negotiated a fair and reasonable scope of services and budget with KSN for ongoing program management, permitting and peer review assistance through 60% design phase. The wastewater generated within the city is proposed source of recycled water in the Riverbank Regional Recycled Water Project and has potential to capture and reuse wastewater to supplement freshwater sources, including in lieu groundwater recharge. And the proposed project includes improvements to the City of Riverbank wastewater treatment plant and recycled water distribution facilities within the vicinity of the treatment plant itself. It is envisioned that this water will be used to offset water used for agricultural needs. During the advancement of the design to 60% level under a separate but complementary scope, the project permitting with the Regional Water Quality Control Board will be initiated, and encroachment permitting with BNSF Railroad and San Joaquin County Public Works Department initiated as well. So based on city staff's review of KSN's continued performance as program manager and selection as our on-call civil civil engineering related to the city's water, wastewater, and stormwater utilities, and the firm's project manager experience and qualifications contracting with KSN for this phase of the program management is recommended. The cost of this element for the project is $395,700 to be appropriated from city's wastewater enterprise fund 106. Staff recommends City Council adopt the resolution to award the contract change order for the 60% design phase, program management, and project permitting support for the regional recycled water project to KSN or Kjeldsen, Sinnock, and Neudeck, and authorize a budget appropriation in the amount of $395,700 from Sewer Fund 106 for fiscal year 24-25. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? Anyone from the public wishing to comment?
Mayor, we have one on Zoom.
Okay.
Number ending in 3108. Can you please unmute? Hi, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear us? I can hear you. Yes, go ahead. Can you hear us?
Ms. Halbert, can you turn down your TV down or your background?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We're getting some feedback.
I don't know why. My TV's off.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I have two questions and it kind of applies to both 1 and 2. My first question is 11.1 says the money's coming from Sewer Fund 106 and the 1102 refers to a, what do you call that thing? An Enterprise Fund 106. Are those two different funds with the same number? Second question is, under Prop 218, the water and sewer funds are both Prop 218 funds that money that you spend that we're paying for the service has to be directly applied to the service on our property. So how do you justify using our Prop 218 funds across the river? Because that would not have anything to do with our property and our service. Thank you.
Any other comment? I'll bring that back.
No.
Sorry. I bring it back, Mandela.
Yes, so with regards to Ms. Halbert's first question, we refer to it as to the wastewater or sewer fund, operating fund, enterprise fund. They're all the same fund. So Sewer 106 is where all of our operating costs are paid from. We did do a Proposition 218 notification process to our residents in order to allow us to raise rates for this specific project. So if you think back to the workshop that we held with regards to the sewer rate study, the rates are broken up into different components. One is to continue the operations of the sewer collection system and the sewer wastewater system, which is your treatment system itself. The second component is to provide for capital improvements in order to continue the operations of both your collection system, which would be all of your sewer lines in the street, et cetera, and then our wastewater treatment plant as well. So capital improvements to our wastewater treatment plant, despite the fact that it is across the river, still do qualify for costs that are eligible to be paid through the Sewer Enterprise Fund.
Thank you. Anything for the council consideration?
I'll make a motion to approve item 11.2.
We have a motion to approve in the second 11.2. Roll call.
Councilmember Uribe.
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones Cruz.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
thank you. 11.3, a resolution adopting a revised statement of investment policy.
Your Assistant City Manager, Camiel Cantor, will provide the report on this item.
Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I am presenting some revised revisions to our current investment policy. So first, on August 27th, the City Council approved a contract with Meteor Public Funds Incorporated for investment advisory services. And part of those services was that they reviewed the city's investment policy that was adopted in July 2007 and made some recommended amendments to it. So the objectives in the changes are to keep capital preservation, liquidity maintenance, and optimize our returns. The proposed changes are aimed at improving the management of the city's investment portfolio. So the key additions to the investment policy were supranational obligations, negotiable certificates of deposits, state and local agency obligations, joint power authority pools, medium-term notes, and mortgage pass-through and assessment-backed securities. All of the changes that have been amended follow along the lines of the state government code that regulate where we can invest and what we can do. It calls it out more specifically on some of these. So the supranational obligations, the United States dollar denominated, guaranteed by International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, International Financial Corporation, or Inter-America Development Bank. The investment parameters require that there's a maturity that's no more than 5 years, and that they have a credit rating of at least AA, and it limits that 30% of our total portfolio can be invested in these. And then we have our negotiable certificates of deposits. They're issued by nationally or state chartered bank or a state or federal savings and loan association, or by a state or federal credit union. And the parameters on those are 30% of our total portfolio. And then state and local agency obligations of the state of California and other states, or any local agency in California or other states. Joint power authorities pools must retain an investment advisor who is registered with the SEC, has assets under management over 500 million, and has at least 5 years of experience investing in instruments authorized by section 53601 with subdivisions A to O, excuse me. And medium-term notes, corporate and depository institution debt securities with a maximum maturity of 5 years or less, issued by corporations organized and operating within the United States, or by depository institutions licensed by the United States or any state operating within the United States. These are limited to 30% of our total portfolio and must be rated A or better. Mortgage pass-through and asset-backed securities eligible for investments under this subdivision shall be rated in a rating category of AA or its equivalent or better by an NRSRO. Investment limits are maximum maturity of 5 years and up to 20% of surplus money. So some other changes that were made, we changed from 1-year treasury to a 0 to 5-year treasury index. We added the assistant city manager as a staff member who implements and monitors investment policy. We added qualifications of the investment advisor. We added collateralization for deposits over 250,000. And then we increased our limit increased to 75 million. We have the ability to put that much in there. Not that I know that we would want to do that, but 20% portfolio limit in a money market mutual funds, maximum of 10% in one fund. So again, the proposed amendments are to enhance security, effectiveness, and compliance of the city's investment practices. It is recommended that the City Council consider adopting a resolution to amend the current statement of investment policy originally approved in July 2007. And I'm available if there are any questions.
So the funds that we have for this investment portfolio, are they part of the funds that we have in the general fund, or is it separate aside from separate fund?
So it's a combination. Our financial software, we track by fund where the monies are, whether it would be in our bank account, in our LAIF account, or if it's in an investment account. So it's a combination of pooled money from the city that gets invested. We go through a cash flow analysis to decide how much money we need to keep that would be liquidity so that we could have easy access to. So it's a combination of all funds.
Others, we kind of do that too. One question I do have is the entities outside of Riverbank, you mentioned JPAs. Usually we don't control, we're usually a member. How does that work?
So primarily when we say a JPA, we're talking about like the LAIF investments, or there's two other ones in California that I'm aware of, the camp and the class.
So it's not the JPA that we have at 911 or something
No,
else?
no.
My ignorance. Thank you. This is any other questions? This is a public meeting. Anyone wishing to comment? I bring it back for consideration.
I'll make a motion that we accept this item as stated.
And I'll say,
We have a motion to approve in a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Uribe,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
yes.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Tammy, thank you. It
Thank
brought
you.
me back to days back in school. And item 11.4, direction on proposed tiny home development and park on city-owned property near the intersection of Jackson Avenue and Stanislaus Street.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is an item that we have discussed in the, oh, sorry. Got ahead of myself. I didn't say anything quite yet. Good evening, Mayor and Council, -1 council member for the record. So this is an item that has been brought forward to both the City Council and the Planning Commission at one point in time for discussion and review, particularly with regards to a park site and whether a park site is an appropriate location, is an appropriate amenity to include within the proposed development that's been discussed, or whether we should be evaluating any additional park amenities within that neighborhood, which currently lacks park space in that area. So just for some clarification and for the informational item for our residents, the city did purchase the land at Jackson and Stanislaus. The two highlighted parcels are the parcels that were purchased, and both of the parcels together are about 2.08 acres in total. For some background, the purchase was authorized in April of 2022. At that point in time, when we brought forward the staff report and resolution, we did specify that the goal was to implement phase 2 of the strategic plan objective to assist our unhoused population by developing a tiny home village to provide transitional housing. Then in June of 2023, we issued a request for proposal. Its goal was to partner with a nonprofit organization and developers to provide housing and services. And we did ask that they incorporate an open space or park area that will provide recreational opportunities for the neighborhood. In November 2023, a conditional award was issued, and that was issued to Rebuilding Green. And so in December 2023, a site plan was presented to city staff. and to interested agencies, for example, the fire district, in order to begin discussions with regards to the specific layout. So you'll notice that the property originally had units across the top, units down at the bottom and on the side, and sort of that central area down at the bottom was going to be a park site. And at that point in time, the proposal was a park site of 0.12 acres. In February of 2024, the city council reviewed this initial design. The purpose was to gather feedback from the city council regarding that proposal. We also wanted to make sure that before any plans were solidified, that we did incorporate any desires of the city council. We had a bit of a varied feedback. A couple council members wanted to ensure that we had open park space for the community. And so the possibility of eliminating units in order to accommodate a larger park was recommended. We did have a comment that wanted to prioritize park space in districts 1 and 2, but was not in favor necessarily of eliminating units. Another comment just was with regards to making sure that we had park space in that community. As I mentioned earlier, there is no open park space. In the past, residents were able to take advantage of the open gates at the former Rio Altura School, which is now the charter school, RLA school. And most schools have now closed to the public. So those are no longer accessible to members in the neighborhood. And one of the last comments was we need to provide housing. Earlier today, you heard a workshop with regards to our housing element. And while we're not required to build housing, we are required to facilitate for that. And that was the initial goal with the purchase of the property that was approved. In February that same month, the developer was committed to looking for additional sites for park space in that neighborhood in order to be able to allow the development to continue as proposed. They also went to the Planning Commission that same month for their feedback on the initial design. And their basic feedback was that the proposed park site would be adequate to service the development, but it would not service the community as a whole. And so obviously the goal in incorporating the park space was to have a opportunity for the community to be able to participate in that. So with that, the developers and the city did go look at alternative park space within that neighborhood. Just to the north of the property that we purchased was a piece of vacant land. We did reach out to, and the developers did reach out to the property owners. Initially, there was some interest in the possibility of selling that to the city, but they also wanted to explore their potential development opportunities. So they did meet with city staff, and thank you to our Director of Community Development, Joshua Mann, who was able to walk them through some of the opportunities. And unfortunately for us, they do want the opportunity to be able to develop that land should they desire to. Now there's a second piece of vacant land. Sorry for the awkward picture. It's off of, yeah, that's basically what it's right next door to the nursing home that's off of Topeka. It's an awkward shape. It's linear. Doesn't really provide for a lot of area other than maybe running space for folks to be able to gather in. So we don't feel like it's an adequate site for an actual park.
And just to confirm, this is property north of the 6719 lot?
Yes, this
Okay.
is the property north of, so it's basically at the intersection of Jackson and Topeka. So it would be just down the block from our property. So now we're here tonight with some updated site plans for the city council, but ultimately the request is going to be for council to provide direction with regards to the use of the site. So I'm going to go through a couple of photographs that just give you some visual of what the developers have been working on. We have, I mean, that team has been working on this for quite some time. We are at the point where there are some funding opportunities that would become available to the developer in order to actually move forward with developing the site. And so we want to be able to have some certainty with regards to moving forward, so that we can provide adequate direction, whether we approach those funding opportunities or not. So this is just an aerial site plan. You'll notice there is no park space incorporated into this. This is to maximize the number of units that we could build on the site. Transitional housing and affordable housing is an important component and is a component of the city's strategic plan, but so is being able to provide for a good quality of life to our existing residents, and park space would provide for that within this neighborhood. This is just a view of what the community center would look like. As mentioned, the community center is the area where the residents within the development would be able to obtain the necessary services, whether those be behavioral health or services where we could refer them out to medical, et cetera. This is just an aerial view of that same community center. And you'll notice down towards the bottom, there's some open space for the development itself, along with the little gazebo. So their proposal is to have some studio units, which would be 1 bedroom. Approximately 16 units would be able to be constructed on the site. And then here's just a little outdoor area of that. They're 1 bedroom units. They would build 8 units of those 1 bedroom units. And then approximately 15 of the 2 bedroom units. And this is just a visual of that as well. And so tonight, here are our options to consider. 1, to allow the development to proceed with the current development site plan, thereby allowing the development team to begin working on grant applications and finalizing agreements between the city and the developer. As I mentioned, this will achieve the city council's goal to be able to provide affordable housing to our residents, and was the initial intent for the purchase of the property. The second is to make the entire site a park area for the benefit of the neighborhood. This would allow the city to encumber $200,000 that we've set aside from the American Rescue Plan Act towards this project, and also achieves the city council's goal to provide a higher quality of life for our residents by allowing some additional park and green space within this area. And so those are the 2 options for council consideration tonight. I'm available for any questions. I know that we do have representatives of the developer, both on Zoom and here in person, who might be open to any questions that you might have specifically on the development itself, and that will want to provide some public comments.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions or comments?
I'll make a few comments. So when I think of kind of quality of life, and I think about like families and parents and what are they going to do with their kids, right? What are kids going to do after work or out of school and stuff like that? One thing that comes to mind, right, for quality of life is parks. And so I spent this weekend pulling up lot maps and then Google Earthing District 3, just pulling it up and just kind of seeing what we have. So thank you, Maricela, for pulling up those lots there. The one to the north of this proposed development, it's, you know, they're looking into homes. So that one we have to kind of cross off. You go a little bit north there, that vacant lot of the 91,000 square feet that's had the U shape that kind of reminded me of Harless Park. I was like, can we make that work? Not really. The space is not there. And so I think we still can afford, I think we can still reach our goal of the affordable housing. That can still be achieved. So I'm glad we purchased this vacant land back in 2022. And I think it's going to provide us an opportunity to develop, and this is just my opinion, of course, a master plan for a park in that district, right? And there are no parks in District 3. I think we can allocate that ARPA funding towards, if it's doable for this property or other current parks. I know that it has a encumbrance deadline, so we have to commit the funding by end of this year and actually use it by the end of next year. So we have that timeline we have to kind of work with. So we have parks that we can use it right now. Pioneer Community and Castleberg Park all have infrastructure past their maturity date, so those improvements have to happen soon. And I think it would be a beneficial way to kind of use those funds. And then given the limited space, if you're looking in that area of the proposed project there's limited green spaces in there, right? So there's a trailer park nearby. There's that apartment complex. They don't have any green spaces there. So this master plan is going to allow our director to kind of start reaching out for those grants and then aim for a full development in 3 to 4 years. So I think that's achievable. And I think we can, I totally support this project. Brad, you're amazing. Everything you've been doing on Shaw for the 2 years that I worked with you. I'm glad to see you. I think we can still have this project, but I would really like to see District 3 have a park. And I believe we can still support, it's going to be for foster youth and the veterans is going to be that behavioral health element that they want to add to it. I absolutely support that. But that's just my opinion. I think that original 0.12 acres is just not going to cut it. And I'll stop there.
I have a couple things I'd like to say since this is my district. I look at this map that we had up earlier, and I noticed what I noticed most was some of the green spots on it. I don't know if you guys can all see it, but it was the one that they showed for the housing element. And what I noticed, and it kept coming back to me, is that there's no green spots on that side of town. And I have received a large number of phone calls and emails that I have returned and talked to many of my neighbors in that district. And my neighbors in that district want a park. My neighbors want a park in that district. And although I also totally support and understand, and you heard my comment earlier about these RENA numbers and the pressure that this council feels, I think that District 3 also has 2 other tiny home villages that are going up currently right now. One's rather large that is in place, ready to go, and the other one's currently under construction. So I'm kind of excited about seeing how those are going in and totally support that. And by no means am I ever hearing that, not in our neighborhood. That's not where these folks are at. These folks want a park in their neighborhood. And I think I'm their voice, and that's my job up here. So thank you.
Would we be able to get like high level updates on Morrill's and Patterson's and the District 2 projects?
So currently the projects are, the one that's in progress is the one on Morel. They are almost complete on their infrastructure work, so hopefully they will start soon on the buildings up. They ran into a few difficulties because there's some underground storage tanks that were unfortunately located and that they needed to mitigate beforehand. The one Lucky House tiny home project, that one is waiting to be able to apply for funding. So it really is just at a standstill until they can obtain some financing for that. But we do provide bi-weekly updates as much as possible in our reports.
Thank you. There are other areas, we can't move the neighbors to a park. And so it makes sense to have a park. It still makes sense. I don't care about the tiny homes. We need to build homes. I know the RENA numbers are mythical, but they are not. We had a proposal in 2019 for a gated affordable housing complex, if you remember. And that was on about 2.4 acres off of 7th Street, right near the tracks. I'm not saying that's where we're gonna go. I'm saying that that property was available. Let's see if we can find something suitable that, for this project. The project is needed. And if it's all tiny homes in District 3, 4, 5, it doesn't matter to me. We need the housing, but we do need to have this project because it is needed. But you can't take away an area, a green space of a community. Why it wasn't done when the housing was being developed? It was supposed to be a park. It doesn't matter if there was a school in there or not. It was a failure on the part of requiring it when the development went in. But we have to make it right. So I'm leaning towards, let's find another place for the tiny homes. That is the direction from me. But before I ask for everybody's direction, is there anyone commenting? Please come forward.
Mayor,
I was gonna call them.
We do have sheets and we called them, but that's
2312
okay.
Rio Verde Drive. Pardon?
Never mind.
I'm for a park in that area. I live up there and we need a park.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
That's your input?
That's it.
Okay, I'll
That
mark
guy
it
was up there
down.
talking about small houses. Well, he can have the developer build him small houses out there in Crossroads. They can tell him, you got to put so many of these small houses in this development or you don't get it.
Thank you. Are we just, okay. No order tonight.
Oh, sorry. Lori Fail, 5901 Chancellor Way. I'm also home base, hooked on Bling for nails. I have two questions, and I don't mean to sound snobbish or condescending. The first one is, I noticed that the homes, the tiny homes, they had stairs. Would they accommodate people who would not be able to go up and down the stairs? And the other, it was project management of, property management of the facilities. And I'm all in for, because I'm in District 4 and there's the tiny homes on Chancellor and Morel going in right there, I believe. But my question is, I have gone, and I won't say what city, but going to doctor's appointments in another city, I watched them redo this whole area, the whole area. It looked beautiful. A year later, it's trashed. There's stuff hanging on the outside of the apartments. There's furniture that's never been picked up. Would that occur in these environments that they're bringing? Because I'm all for, God forbid, any one of us can be homeless. And so, and then there was one more and it just went out the window here. Oh, shoot. There was one more thought. But anyway, I'm just curious about, how they will be maintained going forward. And I remember transitional. When I think of transitional, I think of some of these tiny homes as coming in, people who are struggling or they're having drugs or struggling with these, they have been rehabilitated. Are transitional homes permanent homes, or will they be people who need help, whether drugs, alcohol, whatever, get the help, and then we train them and help them to be, productive members of our community. And I don't mean to sound anything, but like I said, any one of us could be there. So those are my three thoughts, questions.
Thank you.
Rich? Oh,
Okay.
Not necessarily. We're talking about the projects. The management of any of the projects are a separate topic.
Rich,
But-
go ahead.
Rich Homer, 2116 Park Ridge Drive, Riverbank, California. I live in the Northwest area and I know that, that my children, when they were growing up, we would go over to Real Altura School and play basketball and kick soccer balls and things like that. That isn't available anymore. We really need a park site up there. There was an oversight. It was before my time over here. So, you know, I came here in 1995 and most of those homes were then built by then. I don't know if there was they were collecting development fees for parks at that time. Probably not. Back in the 80s, I know we were doing that in Colton. But, you know, looking at the whole thing, I'm not gonna go through my whole spiel here because what you're saying, I totally agree with. We need a park there. And that is the best and highest use for that neighborhood, a neighborhood park to serve the residents of Riverbank. You know, I saw Centennial Park, you have more room and you could put in a couple pickleball courts. You could put in a basketball court. You could have someplace, playground equipment. You could have a shelter, swing set, barbecue pits, workout equipment around the park. I mean, there's so many opportunities there that neighborhood really needs. The kids are playing out in the park, out in the street. People are putting up, you know, those little signs that says children at play. That doesn't stop people from going 45 miles an hour, the kids having to scramble out of the way. So I like what I'm hearing from this council night. I've talked to you, Leanne, and we know that your district right now has 2 tiny homes project. I'm not opposed to those. I think tiny homes in the right place are a good thing. But what I am saying is this is the ideal place for a park. And I hope you continue with your thoughts on that, turn it over to Mike and some designers. And I think we can come up with a nice park that will fill the needs of that community. Thank you.
Mr. Pearson?
Gary Pearson, District 3, 2209 Cedarwood Circle. I live within 3/4 of a mile of what would be proposed as a park. And I do ride through the neighborhood and I do see that space is a space for those opportunities to put a park in, would be very much utilized. And what I see is in other parts of our city that there are neighborhood parks, which are very much utilized. This is one section of our city that needs that kind of activity. And, you know, I'm not a soccer player, but I do play outdoor sports. Pickleball is just one of those things. And, but I also look at that space for kids that can practice. And, you know, outdoor activities is a very important part of their development. So, and in that neighborhood, there's lots of families towards the east side that I think that if it was a park, would see high activity. So I also included some pictorials about our current inventory that you have. You can look at those. Also note from our planning group from last time that we just heard a report, there's actually 56 open sites if you do the inventory and the analysis. So if you look at those closely, you'll be able to identify some other locations to put additional tiny homes. And I'm all for tiny homes too. I think that's a very good resource given our economics. So with that, thank you.
Go ahead. Yes, you are.
Dang. I just want to say I represent the development partner that's doing this, and we have worked with the city and came up with a plan, and now we're changing. That's fine. From our perspective, we responded to RFP. We'll respond to the next RFP that comes out. There's some funding that's available. It's the second round, third round of home key that probably will not be available to us. That was what the bulk of it was. It was the one that the governor signed for mental health. So that's part of our funding for that. But like I've told when I met with your staff, it's your city. It's not my city. You guys need to do what you need to do, but we're here to provide. And the nonprofit does a great job with transitional youth from 18 to 24 coming out of the foster care system. And we need lots of that stuff. So hurry up, find a place and we'll propose on it. So that's what I have to say. But there is a lot of work at doing some out-of-the-box thinking on providing what I call attainable housing, not affordable housing, but something that people can afford to buy. And we're actually rolling it out next Thursday, and hopefully we can get it going to where we can start coming around to city councils and explain what our plan is to try and get some. And that's through the Stanislaus Homeless Alliance. It's for all of us. It's not just one city. So thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, city staff, and residents of Riverbank. My name is Deanna Garcia, and I'm here this evening to speak to you about the unhoused situation the city of Riverbank and Stanislaus County is now facing. Every year, we go out and we count the number of unhoused people living in our city. The numbers are not shrinking, but they are growing. The cost of living continues to rise. We unfortunately continue to see our friends and neighbors becoming unhoused, unable to keep a roof over their head. The school districts has shared their numbers and their findings of children that attend the schools of where we live, in the neighborhoods of which our children live. We have multiple numbers of children living in other people's homes, sleeping on other people's couches, living in their parents' cars. It's really great that we want to park for these children to go and play in, but it'd be really nice if we could put up, what do we have here, 39 units for children to actually call home, for children to have a place to call home. Our community is really unaffordable at this time for a lot of family members who are working and are struggling to keep a roof over their family's head. This project, if it was to go forward, would have 39 units of affordable transitional housing, helping over 120 Riverbank residents to have a home to call their own. This will be a very well-maintained project, as Darlene, who had to recuse herself tonight, will be one of the property managers overseeing this project. She'd be able to keep a good eye on it, make sure that it stays upstanding for the citizens who will be living there and the citizens who will be surrounding our complex. It's not getting any more affordable out there, and that's great to have a park, but it'd be really sad if the kids who went to the schools, parents had to go and park at that park so they could have a safe place to sleep at night and a safe place to play during the day, but no place to call their home. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mayor, we received a written comment. This is from Cal Campbell, former council member and resident of District 3. Good evening, Mayor and council members. In January of 2022, the former director of Parks and Rec, Sue Fitzpatrick, asked me to walk with her in the Jackson Avenue and Stanislaus Street area to find land for a future neighborhood park. In the past, the public used Rio Altura School, currently RLA, as a park after school and on weekends and holidays. The Riverbank School District closed all schools to be used by the public when schools were closed because of damages to the schools and the public getting injuries on the school grounds for possible legal suits. During the past 4 years, many retired older homeowners sold homes to families with children. These children range from babies to teenagers. They play in the streets because of no neighborhood park. This area of District 3 is out of compliance with the state and federal regulations by not having a neighborhood park. The area should totally be a neighborhood park where area families and others have a place to relax, gather, and do other activities. I am not against tiny homes unless they are put in areas where the public has a need for the land. If these tiny homes are put into this area, it would create more traffic problems because of a school, rehabilitation hospital, a small mental facility, and the near businesses getting daily traffic. This is not a good area for young adults transcending out of foster homes and high schools to be living in here because they are very near a K-8 charter school, where there are traffic problems when students are being brought in the morning, picked up in the afternoon by private cars and buses. There are better areas in Riverbank where these tiny homes can be developed with less neighborhood problems. A neighborhood park is needed more in this area than tiny homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
That is all.
Could bring it back for any further discussion and then direction.
So just to clarify, while an official motion doesn't need to be made, it would be preferable. There's no resolution attached to this, but this would solidify the city council's direction with regards to the most appropriate use of the site and would provide us with a means to move forward with regards to this location.
I just had one other thing I wanted to, in my mind, what I'm hearing tonight is by no means that we are saying, no, we don't want to see tiny houses or this project to happen. I don't think, in my opinion, that that's at all what we heard. I think what I heard is that this particular piece of property, that several of us want to see a park there. But I want it clear and abundant that folks that I talk to are by no means saying, we don't want this tiny house village at all. So I want the folks that are here with the development to understand that and I'm just speaking for myself, that's not where we're at with this particular thing. So I don't want you to be discouraged because I think you heard earlier that there's a need for this and we want this. But I think I'll just stop there.
I would. Any others?
I could keep on going, but
I know.
he's gonna be tapping his watch.
I agree with Leanne.
Okay, well, I think from what I'm hearing, anyone tell me differently, that we are looking to develop the property as a park, but at the same time, we're looking for a property that may be available to develop the housing on that does not conflict with the needs of the surrounding community. And I'm not saying a NIMBYism on it. I'm for the tiny home. I'm for more dense development. But you also have to have a green space. You walk around the city, I'm sure you have, and I have walked around, you see the parks at night, afternoon. They're being utilized a great deal, and it's needed. So are the tiny homes. So we'll make a compromise. We'll find a place for the tiny homes as soon as practical, and we'll move forward on the park as soon as practical, unless there's a resolution in the future.
So I'm going to echo support all three council member and mayor, their comments. I think the residents all had valid points. We want to see this project move forward. I think if we're looking at District 3 as a whole, there is no other option for a park. This is it, really. So I say we move forward for this location, a park, support the tiny home project in a different location, anywhere in the city. I support this project. It doesn't matter where. We want to help there as well. As far as the ARPA funding, do you want direction with the ARPA funding or
No
direction there? Okay. And yeah, I think sounds like unanimous.
Any other comment? Direction provided.
Thank you to all of the council for your feedback and to all of the residents who reached out. And I want to also thank Deanna and Brad and all of their team. They worked tirelessly on this project. We had multiple meetings over the past year with regards to what it could possibly look like and looking at alternative space. So I do not want to diminish all of the work that they did to try to get us to this point. It was kind of the point of no return. So we needed that direction in order to be able to move forward one way or another. And as mentioned, the city council is still achieving its goals that it set through its strategic plan. And so we'll be looking forward to working with Michael, our Director of Parks and Recreation, and his team in developing a park site in that area.
Can we bring Darlene back in now, please? We're past that now. Item 12, staff comments, please.
So a couple of staff comments for tonight. We do have a Jacob Meyer Park open house, which is being held tomorrow. We do have two sessions, one from 3:30 to 5 o'clock, and one that will go from 6:30 to 8 o'clock at Jacob Myers Park. It's intended to have residents be able to provide feedback with regards to amenities they'd like to see at the park. We were awarded a grant to update the master plan for that site. So we certainly want to be able to incorporate any of our residents' wishes in that as we continue to work towards that. Second, we do have our pumpkin event. Why can I not remember the name?
It's
right now?
floating
The
pumpkin patch.
Floating pumpkin patch.
Come on.
It is, I know. This is coming from a non-swimmer, okay? So we do have that event this Saturday. Tickets are $10, and we do want to thank a couple of sponsors that we've had that Michael will be able to highlight the day of the event. So we thank them for being able to assist us in putting this together and for all of the work that staff has done with regards to this event. And I had one more comment and I just now cannot remember it, so that will be all from me.
Okay. Councilmember Hernandez.
I want to add and emphasize to Councilmember Barbara Martinez's point earlier about the website for the regional water wastewater plant project. But more so to ask if where we are on the communications RFP, because I feel like we have a real opportunity to tell the story of, you know, how this project is coming together. We had some tension around North County Corridor and that huge project itself. And so I think it's important for us to now, you know, be proactive in telling the story, communicating with the public and letting them know like where we are in this process. So we're all on the same page moving forward. So is there an update on that?
So an update will be provided at the next council meeting as there's some funding opportunities that have come up.
That's it? Okay. Councilmember Uribe,
No comments tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Barbara Martinez.
I just want to let everyone know that I received an email from a resident in District 4 regarding the crosswalks at Enox. They needed attention because they were not clearly marked and were dangerous for students, pedestrians, and drivers. So our city staff contacted the city of Modesto, and the next day the issue was corrected. And then I just want to say thank you to Modesto for caring about our residents that attend Enox High School as much as we care for them too. And we really appreciate the collaboration and how quickly they got that done. And an update on Shaw, our Stanislaus Homeless Alliance. We received a presentation. It was pretty much like the same one that we received about all kinds of funding for the regional homeless situations. And it was grants that the county had received. And then the Stanislaus County urban projects that were presented included the before and after pictures of our Castleberg Park, the same ones that we saw about the ADA and trail improvements, and an update on CSOC, which is the Community System of Care for Stanislaus County. So even though there were flyers available for our ribbon cutting for the Sierra House, I personally made an announcement to ensure that everyone knows that Riverbank is moving forward with our programs to assist our unhoused neighbors. And then I want to say thank you to everyone that attended the ribbon cutting for our newest park, Centennial Park. And thank you to Parks and Recreation for making our residents feel welcome and making it a fun event. And then thank you to all our Hispanic leaders in the city of Riverbank that continue to help our city to move forward. So whether they are old residents or new ones or young or old, I just want to say thank you for being a part of the city of Riverbank. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
I have a couple announcements tonight. If I can get there.
On a personal note, although I'm a little choked up, I have a celebration. I am retiring from Modesto City Schools after 21 years of service. And thank you. And with that said, Friday is my last day at Modesto City Schools. This will complete a actual 31-year of teaching. And I'm very excited about it, whether you see this or not. But and with that came the sale of my house. So I have sold my house and I will be retiring out of state. And so I'm announcing that tonight. And this has been an awesome run. And my last council meeting will be October 8th. And I will be stepping down because the house closes on Monday and I will be moving out of my house on Monday. I couldn't really talk about it because of the closing and didn't know if it'd actually go through. But it's just been, I'm from here. This is my home. But I also have family in another state. And unfortunately, being a single person, I wasn't able to retire and stay here. So I'm retiring it out of state. But because this is my home, this is where I was born, it's not like you won't ever see me. I still have many, many extended family, and some of them are probably hearing this because I haven't really said and spoken a lot about it because everything happened so fast. So with that said, the city of Riverbank has a very near and dear place in my heart. I will forever be grateful for all the opportunities when I moved home 21 years ago to take the job with Modesto City Schools. I was the wayward child that traveled. And if you know me, traveling is what I do. And I will be doing some of it probably in the next few weeks. So thank you, everybody that's been so supportive of me and this council. And I hope I've represented my neighborhood well. You mean a lot to me, and I will miss it. Thank you.
I'm thinking good luck. Fair winds. Well, I had comments, but I think I will skip them in lieu of that. We're going to go into closed session consistent with item 13.1. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 Delta. Number of potential cases 1. Liability claim 13.2. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54961, claimant Nathan Wilson. Agency claimed against City of Riverbank. Is anyone from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, we adjourn to closed session.
be around. It's not like I'm not gonna be here. I mean, my family's still here. Just.
Riverbank City Council LRA Board meetings convened from closed session. Report from closed session, item 14.1, report from closed session, item 13.1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Direction has been provided to staff. Report from closed session, item 13.2, liability claim pursuant to Government Code 54961. Complaint Nathan Wilson. By a 5-0 vote, the claim has been denied. With that, our next meeting is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. This meeting is adjourned.